Hello everybody, welcome to episode number 4. Thanks to my wonderful camera, I'm fairly certain you can see me well, and I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Alright, that's it. The wicked flee when no man pursueth, but the righteous are bold as a lion. Oh, now that is much better. As you can see, I've been blessed with some wonderful new equipment. Thank God for
upgrades, people, upgrades. That's how we make the dough.
Again, I would like to welcome you to episode 4 of The Lion Tribe. Remember, LION stands for Liberate, Investigate, Organize, and Negate. So on this episode, I decided to go a little bit further into the subject of grooming. And you'll understand why as I move into the subject. On the last episode, I did list off tactics that child predators use when they are grooming children to be more sexualized and to accept abnormal sexual behaviors. It's not just individual predators that target children, families, and communities. There are entire groups and agencies that are doing this. The CDC, one of our notorious three-letter government agencies, promotes organizations that show the hallmarks of child grooming. As you recall also, I talked about the United States Department of Education, another three-letter agency, DOE. At this very point in time, they are considering the Title IX changes that would erase protections for women and girls, and it would grant special protections for the LGBTQetc people. When our own government agencies are promoting and favoring groups and organizations designed to purposefully push sexual boundaries of minors, there can only be one conclusion, in my opinion: we are living under a groomer government. One could assume that this is because the psychos pushing this stuff are in government positions. They have gained positions of authority, and they are using it to their advantage. Who wouldn't do that? So it's up to we, the people, to smoke these people out of positions of authority. People who are okay with the grooming of children, they do not belong in charge of any of us. We need to hold them accountable, folks. All right, so let me go into the cdc.gov website /LGBT health /youth resources. As always, I will provide links to websites that I'm reading off of. I will provide them in the bottom of the video. Reading from there, it says, LGBT youth resources. Positive environments are important to help all youth thrive. I don't disagree with that, folks. However, the health needs of LGBT youth can differ from their heterosexual peers. How so, CDC? On this page, find resources from the CDC, other government agencies, and community organizations for LGBT youth, their friends, educators, parents, and family members to support positive environments. So, the CDC offers quite a few different organizations. The very top link is something titled Gay, Lesbian, and Bisexual Teens, Facts for Teens and Their Parents. If you click on that link, it actually takes you to, I believe, the American Academy of Pediatricians or Pediatrics. That's something I plan to do in a later video, dig a little bit into the medical aspect of things and how some medical professionals are promoting this. Many medical professionals are promoting this, not just some. And I want to target some of the erroneous claims that are made by medical professionals, doctors, nurses, psychiatrists, people who claim to be looking out for the best interests of children, and yet they are doing the exact opposite. Let me review real quick some of the key points on how to know when somebody is grooming children. So, to quote from the RAINN website again, though grooming can take many different forms, it often follows a similar pattern. Victim selection. Abusers often observe possible victims and select them based on ease of access to them. It's easy to access kids who are stuck at school. Excuse me. Gaining access and isolating the victim. Isolating is a key word there. Getting kids alone. Getting kids away from their parents, their guardians, people who are the best set to protect them. Trust development and keeping secrets. That's very important for this episode. So, people who are looking to groom kids, they make it a point to develop trust between themselves and the children. And the secret keeping, that is a big, big, big telltale sign of groomer behavior. Secret keeping about sexual topics. I was just talking to one of my kids the other day, and I said, anybody who is trying to keep secrets between themselves and you from your parents, you come to your parents immediately, because no adult is safe if they think it's okay to keep secrets from my child's parents. And then, of course, we've got the other sign, the attempt by abusers to make their behavior seem natural. So one of the organizations that the CDC links is PFLAG, which stands for Parents for Lesbians and Gays. This organization, I believe, was initially established in 1973 when I read on the website. I'm reading on pflag.org/policy statements right now. And under the section where it says anti-transgender violence and discrimination, it says PFLAG was the first national LGBTQ+ organization to mandate the full inclusion of people who are transgender as part of its express mission statement approved by the Board of Directors in 1998. PFLAG recognizes that in the 20-plus years since approving this inclusive mission, discrimination, violence, and harm against transgender and gender-expansive people. I'm going to stop right there. What's a gender-expansive person, PFLAG? I'm going to assume that when they say gender-expansive, they just mean expanding to infinity and beyond with the gender spectrum that they talk about, how they say there's no limit to how many genders there are. It's all malarkey. That's true. All right, let me continue. Harm against transgender and gender-expansive people has greatly increased with violence against transgender people. In particular, black transgender women. Now that there, folks, is what you would call, what they call intersectionality. They really hit a lot of woke victim cards there when they mentioned black people. They mentioned transgender and woman. So when you hear the word transgender and woman together, what they mean is a man, a biological man. Okay, so growing to epidemic proportions is what they're saying that this violence is doing. PFLAG also recognizes that transgender people of color experience a compounded negative impact from their intersectional identities. See? Told you, intersection. Including poverty, homelessness, unemployment, and health disparities. One thing I want to point out, when they're talking about violence, when they're talking about harassment, people in the LGBTQ community, many of them, and those who are allied with this community, they are trying to get it changed, trying to get the wording changed into law to where misgendering them or doing what's called dead naming, calling them by their birth name, they're trying to get that defined as harassment and discrimination. If they can get that coded into law, they can get more and more people in trouble legally. They can threaten you with lawsuits if you misgender them. They can threaten you with loss of your job, loss of your income, your livelihood. I encourage you to stand up against this nonsense. We don't have to be afraid of this stuff. If we don't stand up against it together, band together against this stuff, it's just going to bulldoze all of us. Let me continue in the article. PFLAG commits to advocating with and supporting transgender and gender-expansive people, and to working to reduce and remove the root causes of this crisis of violence and injustice, including systemic racism, sexism, discrimination, and harassment. Let me pause there. I want to offer my disclaimer. I, of course, do not condone any violence, any physical violence, actual physical violence against transgender people. I don't condone any violence against women. I don't condone violence against anybody that I disagree with. It should never come to that. Sometimes disagreements will get heated. Sometimes disagreements will rise to the level where people just have to part ways because anger levels rise. But we have to be civil, no matter what we're discussing, no matter what the subject is. When we're talking to anybody with whom we disagree, I will always advocate for civility. And I will always try to keep the peace, even amongst those who wish me harm. Continuing, we are also committed to educating others and ourselves about gender identity and gender expression in order to meet unfounded fear with facts. Now, they must have a very broad definition of the word facts, or a twisted definition, because some of their so-called facts are not facts at all. All right, I'm going to skip on down to the section where they talk about censorship, which is really ironic, and you're going to love this part. PFLAG supports the right to honest, accurate, informative, and inclusive education to help every child learn and thrive. So, of course, their target demographic to educate is children. Now, I want to highlight the words honest and accurate first. When you're honest with these people and you tell them that there are only two genders, they're going to disagree with you. They're going to say that's inaccurate, even though you know for a fact that it's true. And then the word inclusive. So, inclusive, the way they're using it, is actual censorship. So when they say inclusive, what they mean is only people who speak the way they want them to speak. Only people who speak words that they agree with. They exclude people who disagree with them. They don't want you in their group. They don't want you around. Again, like I said, they want to treat misgendering, they want to treat dead naming as harmful and discriminatory. All right, so moving on, we support the right to learn about diverse topics, people, and histories, and strive to empower youth to think critically encouraging them to make informed decisions for themselves. I do agree with that last part. I, of course, want children, youth, to make informed decisions for themselves. All right, next part. PFLAG opposes censorship in communities, schools, and libraries of books or content that include discussion of LGBTQ+ identities, race or ethnicity, disabilities, or genders. So, parents, guardians, people who are going to Board of Education meetings and bringing attention to the hypersexualization of their kids through library books. PFLAG is one of the organizations you are fighting against because they are advocating in the opposite direction. They want these pro-LGBTQ books in the libraries. They want them in the schools. They want kids learning this stuff. All right, I'm going to move on down to another section. Of course, PFLAG supports common sense gun laws. They want to restrict our Second Amendment rights. Oh, the section of hate crimes. So, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people experience disproportionately high rates of violence, assault, and murder based on their actual or perceived sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. Since the 2016 election, of course, they're going to say this is when it all started, but whatever. Violence and hate crimes have been on the rise in the United States. Reports of violence and allegations of hate crimes have risen dramatically for immigrant, refugee, African American, Jewish, Latinx. There you go. Hispanic community. They are erasing your gendered language for you. You should thank them, apparently. LGBTQ and Muslim communities. At particular risk for violence are those who embody more than one intersecting, marginalized identity. And among the LGBTQ population, highest risk and reports are experienced by transgender women. Again, folks, transgender women means men. Of color, and queer Muslims of color. Inclusive sexuality education. PFLAG believes that all people who are LGBTQ should be valued by society and by themselves. PFLAG works to educate people on issues important to the community and advocates for inclusive policies, which includes sexuality education. PFLAG recognizes that many sexuality education efforts make assumptions about the target audience's gender identity or sexual orientation. See, what they mean by assumptions is they're saying that those who are teaching certain audiences, classrooms, are assuming that they're all either boys or girls. That assumption is correct, but they're calling it an assumption. They're calling it an inaccurate assumption, I should say. All right, assuming someone's gender identity or sexual orientation based on how they look, assuming that all individuals experience sexual attraction, assuming that asexuality is the same as celibacy or abstinence, assuming that all young people are only attracted to the opposite gender. They put opposite in quotes. Or teaching that there are only two genders. They don't like that, folks. It says it may make youth of different identities, genders, or orientations not feel included. See? Right there. So they're saying you are not being inclusive if you teach kids that there are only two genders. You are not being inclusive if you assume that a boy is attracted to a girl. Or vice versa. How dare you? How dare I? All right. PFLAG believes inclusive sexuality education can foster more positive sexual health outcomes and promote the development of sexually healthy adults. That sentence there just frustrates me so much, because what they're getting at is they want to liberate children into their own sick versions of sexuality, not healthy sexuality, not healthy sexual development. These people are into exposing kids to sex at very young ages, sexual topics, things that they are not mentally or emotionally ready for. All right, let me continue. Inclusive sexuality education includes information about gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, emotional relationships, and responsibilities, along with skills building to help young people make informed decisions regarding their sexual health. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. We want to groom kids. That was my quote, not theirs. Oh, in that same section, here's another interesting quote. Inclusive sexuality education should be provided through a student's grade levels with information appropriate to the student's development and cultural background. So they are fully intent on teaching this stuff at multiple grade levels. And yes, they do say information appropriate to their development. But that's not much of a defense, folks. I promise you the stuff that they're pushing for is far too in-depth, far too perverse for kids to be even touching. As you recall, I mentioned that book, Genderqueer, on my last video, and it does include cartoon pornography. If you find out that book is anywhere near your children in the schools, get it out. Demand from your Board of Education, from your superintendent, that they ban that book from the school immediately. I shouldn't use the word ban. Oh my goodness. Okay, I want to be technical. If I want a perverse book out of my child's school, it is not a book ban. It is a restriction. It just like you go in the olden days in a video store, when you would go in there would be an adult section that was restricted to those 18 and older. This is all most of us parents are asking for. We just want the adult-oriented books, the books that are not appropriate for our minor children. We don't want them near them. We don't want them in their classroom. We don't want their teacher discussing this stuff with them. We don't want their English teacher, their math teacher discussing in-depth sexual topics with them. Teachers that have absolutely zero training in psychiatry. Those books belong in the restricted section. That's all I'm saying. All right, and there's the section on public accommodations. PFLAG believes that all people should be able to access public accommodations, including facilities and services. So they're talking about bathrooms, in a way that respects who they are, protects their safety, and ensures that regardless of someone's gender identity or expression, equal protection under the law is granted, including for transgender and gender-expansive people. So, it's interesting that they mention equal protection under the law, when what they're actually asking for with the Title IX changes that they are advocating for, they are proposing unequal protections. They want transgendered people to be able to use the bathroom of their preference, regardless of how women and girls feel, regardless of their comfort level. They are willing to sacrifice the comfort level and safety of women and girls as a special privilege, as a special right that they believe that they are entitled to. I say all people should be required to use only the restroom of their birth sex. All right, so final section before I finish on this article. Safe and welcoming schools. PFLAG supports federal, state, and local laws and advocates for legislation, regulations, and school district policies which mandate policies and practices that protect lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer students from bullying, including cyberbullying, harassment, and discrimination. In the absence of such laws, PFLAG strongly advises public and private school administrators to implement comprehensive, inclusive policies and practices to end bullying, harassment, and discrimination, and create a healthy, safe, and welcoming learning environment for all students. So, PFLAG targets schools to get what they want accomplished. Another link that is on the CDC website. Michael Knowles brought this up in a recent video. I believe this is the link he was referring to. This is a website called QChat Space. So if you click on that link, it takes you to qchatspace.org. It says it's a community for LGBTQ plus teens, and it says, "We're glad you're here." Now I'm going to share this example video here that it shows right on the intro page. That way you get some idea what exactly this is. Okay? And remember, the CDC is promoting this by offering it on their website. In QChat Space, as you can see, it's just like the traditional chat rooms. So in this example video, we've got Sam, who is the host, and he's got his pronouns as they. Our topic today is dysphoria and ways to deal with it. Let's start with names and pronouns. All right, who wants to start? So all these people are introducing themselves. Now, pay special attention to the rules that Sam, the host, lays out. He or she says, just to remind you of the group agreements. We want people who use QChat Space to feel safe, get support, and make friends. In order to make sure that happens, we need to have clear and mutually agreed upon ways to interact with each other. We ask every person who joins groups on QChat Space to agree that they will 1. Respect others' identities and pronouns. 2. Keep confidentiality. Remember what I said about the signs of grooming, folks? They're telling people who join this chat to keep everything here a secret. What's shared here stays here. Be here for support and try to stay positive. So what they mean by try to stay positive is don't disagree with our ideologies on here, or we probably will kick you out. Welcome new ideas and different perspectives. So don't you dare question somebody who comes in with different ideas than you, especially if they're far out, like Miss Meow Kitty that I saw on Libs of TikTok post the other day. And it says, own up to and forgive mistakes. Oh, that's precious. All right, so Sam asks a question. He says, first question, what are some things that make you feel better when you feel dysphoric? Like when you feel like your body / how other people see you doesn't match your gender. And then we've got all these replies from the people that joined the chat. This one reply says, you need to aim higher. I wish I were an incorporeal entity personally. So as you can see, it's just, this example video is just showing like the types of topics and discussions that they could have. What I really want to point out is the fact that this QChat space, who is the target audience? Okay, if you click on the About Us section, it says QChat space provides online discussion for groups for LGBTQ plus and questioning teens ages 13 to 19. Pause. Okay, right back to that example video. Remember, the rules of the discussion were to maintain confidentiality. Who exactly are the people hosting these chat spaces? If you go to the website facilitators, it says, or the facilitator section, there's a couple different organizations. PFLAG, hey, there they are again. There's another company called Centerlink, the Community of LGBT Centers. And Planned Parenthood. What in the world are y'all doing in the LGBTQ section of the internet? My goodness. Y'all are about killing babies and transing the kids that are alive? Whoo. Crazy organization. Oh, there's multiple other organizations. So we see here, there's LGBTQ Center in Orange County, California. There's Center on Halsted, which is in Chicago, Illinois. SMYAL, that's SMYAL, Empowering LGBTQ Youth. That's in Washington, D.C. We've got Hedrick Martin Institute, New York, New York. Jasmine, JASMYN, in Jacksonville, Florida. Time Out Youth, which is in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Hugh Lane Wellness Foundation, which is in Pittsburgh, PA. So these are multiple organizations that are just like PFLAG, where they're pushing against parents. They are willing to trample on parental rights, and they don't care. They're willing to sacrifice the safety of women and girls. They do not care. They have an agenda, and they are fighting for it. They've been fighting for this stuff for years. And it's sad that many of us are just now waking up to it. And I say us because I'm including myself in this. But I'm telling you folks, I am willing to push back legally. I am willing to push back on social media. That is why I'm doing this podcast. Excuse me. So, like I said from the get-go, the CDC is promoting groomer websites, groomer organizations. We are living in a groomer government era. This is taxpayer-funded grooming. My taxes and your taxes go to this stuff. There's another organization called the Trevor Project. That's linked in the QChat website, but I believe it's also on the CDC. I just wanted to mention them briefly too, because it also targets teenagers. I think its target audience said something like 14. No, here it is. 13 to 24 is their target audience. And if you explored that website, you would also see that they offer similar things. They offer a hotline for people to call them, contact them, kids to call them, contact them, and they'll keep the kids' information confidential. Now, I will admit there are genuinely some kids who are lesbian, gay, bisexual. They might think they're transgender. They might think they're non-binary, queer, whatever. They're questioning themselves. They might be in legitimate danger. They might actually have people in their household who would physically harm them. I'm not going to ignore reality. There are people that would abuse children because they are different, that would abuse children like this. Those people are monsters, just as much as the groomers are. People who physically assault children, who beat their kids, those people are monsters. They should be behind bars. But that is not to say, And it is not for any school officials or teachers or politicians to say that all parents or even a majority of parents are in that realm, that a majority of parents treat their kids that way. Our website that I wanted to mention that's linked on the CDC website is the Stomp Out Bullying. It's stompoutbullying.org. So this is a resource that the CDC is promoting to communities and mostly to schools. It says LGBTQ plus bullying, making schools safe for LGBTQ plus community. All right, it says schools should be a young person's primary center for learning, growing, and building a foundation for success in the world. That is a false statement. It should not be a person's primary center for learning, growing, and building a foundation. The home should be the primary center for that. So, right from the get-go, I disagree with you, Stomp Out Bullying. High school can be challenging for any student, but LGBTQ plus youth face additional obstacles of harassment, abuse, and violence. Let's see, they mentioned this statistic here. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer bullying is alarming. In fact, 9 out of 10 LGBTQ plus students reported being harassed and bullied last year. Harassment, actual harassment, like physical, like pushing kids up against lockers, stuffing kids in lockers, actually physically abusing kids, bullying them, calling them derogatory names or slurs, racial slurs, whatever it may be. Those are no-nos. Those kids who are doing that to other kids, they definitely should be disciplined. And I mean strictly so. I believe in strict discipline. I believe that there's too much pussyfooting around these days where some school officials, their hands are basically legally tied and they're not allowed to legitimately discipline some kids. And that just increases bullying because the kids know they can get away with the crap. They're like, okay, so the school preaches anti-bullying, but they're not cracking down on what the bullies are actually doing. I actually spoke with one of my local teachers back when I was campaigning for Board of Education, and he mentioned to me that because of the fact that they are not allowed to physically lay a hand on a kid who is acting out, even aggressively, in the classroom, they are supposed to let that kid pretty much control the classroom. If they're throwing a tantrum, throwing things around, even destroying property, they're supposed to pretty much let them control it and get all the other kids out to safety. I'm sorry, folks, but when I was in school, if I did something stupid like that, I would have had probably one of my male teachers would have come in, grabbed me by the arm, and yanked me out of the classroom. And when he called my mom or my dad, they probably would have come to the school and said, "Why didn't you yank his arm off? Why didn't you yank his arm harder?" And then I probably would have got my my hide tanned when I got home. All right, so one more quote from this Stomp Out Bullying website. It says, gay teens are 8.4 times more likely to report having attempted suicide and 5.9 times more likely to report high levels of depression compared with peers from families that reported no or low levels of family rejection. So you'll notice that when you're having conversations with people, people that are pro-LGBTQ ideology, you'll notice that they will bring up the subject of suicide quite often. And what they're doing is they're using this as a weapon. They're trying to weaponize your empathy. They are using the threat of, or the potential for LGBTQ youth to commit suicide. They're using that as a way to control you, to control how you speak, to control how you think, and to get you on their side. They it's similar to abuser tactics. When an abusive spouse or an abusive partner wants to keep somebody in an abusive relationship, one of the things that they'll do is threaten to kill themselves if the victim leaves them. That's what this is. People who are allies, people who are in this community, they will quote the suicide statistics. I mean, they'll quote it all day long because they're using it as a way to say, if you don't respect our pronouns, we will kill ourselves. Do you see this suicide rate? How dare you not call me by my preferred pronoun? I will kill myself. If you, like, they're weaponizing your emotions. They're twisting you. They're trying to twist your heart. They're trying to wrench at your heart to get you to do what they want. It's controlling. It's abusive. It really is. Let me read further on the website. Treating LGBTQ students with respect. The language used against LGBTQ students is unconscionable. LGBTQ plus students, like any other students, deserve to be treated with tolerance, respect, and dignity. Now, I do agree that all students should be treated with tolerance. I agree with respect. I agree with dignity. Every human being should be treated that way. Okay? And then the rest of that statement says, because the reality is, it should never matter what your sexual orientation or identity is. I do disagree with that last part. It should matter. Because you all are making it matter by trying to control people and how they speak. Okay, it says principles guiding the rights approach on sexual orientation relate to equality and non-discrimination. Human rights advocates and other activists seek to ensure social justice and guarantee the dignity of LGBTQ pluses because, like anyone else in the LGBTQ plus student, an LGBTQ plus student is a person just like you are. The only difference is their sexual orientation. Maybe you're different because you're tall, underweight, or dress differently than others. Stop right there. Being tall, that's not something that somebody can control. That's your height. That's in your genes. That's just something that you're born with. You are born to be a tall person. You are born to be a short person. If you're underweight, that is a little bit in your control. You can gain weight with the proper diet and or exercise, lack thereof. Dress, of course, you can control that. It says, okay, it goes on to say, no matter what our differences, everyone deserves to be treated with respect and dignity. Okay, it says we cannot accept ignorance. Okay, it's interesting that they say that because they are promoting ignorance when it comes to people's gender. They are wanting us to raise ignorant children who are ignorant of biological differences, of biological facts. It says we cannot accept intolerance. We cannot accept name-calling. We must all respect each other. We must all accept others. We must all be tolerant of others. We must all be allies. No, we must not all be allies. No, not in the way you all mean it. And it says we are all the same, no matter. No, we're not all the same. Stop trying to lump me in with you all. I am not the same as you. All right, moving on. Celebrate our differences and honor our similarities. No, I'm not going to celebrate these differences. I am not going to be accepting of you. I'm not going to be affirming a lie. So, one of the things that this website recommends that people do in their schools and their communities, it says LGBTQ plus bullying prevention. Start a gay-straight alliance at your school. Establish a GSA the same way you would establish any other club. And it just instructs them how to do it. It says find a faculty advisor, teacher, who you feel would be supportive or who already has proven to be an ally around sexual orientation issues. So the website is instructing kids to find teachers who will help them promote the LGBTQ agenda at their school. And it goes on to instruct them like who to speak to at your school liaison, community members, people who agree with you, guidance counselors, social workers. It tells kids to select a meeting place that is private and offers confidentiality, again, with the secrecy, groomer tactics. If you all are so proud of your agenda, we just had Pride Month in June. If there's nothing to be ashamed of, then none of it should have to be done in secret. None of it should have to be confidential. Yeah, well, we want kids to be comfortable and to be able to come out in secret. No, what you want is sicko adults. You sicko adults want kids to confide in you, to develop trust in you, because you want to feel the hero. You have the savior complex. Stop grooming our kids. All right. Did I make you jump? Did I scare you? Sorry, folks. I am done reading articles. It can get boring sometimes. I tell you what. Let me wrap it up by giving you a couple examples of why we need to fight against this stuff. Why we need to fight against this stuff in our schools. If you don't push back on this stuff in your local schools, people like this will be talking to your kids in private. It says, ask me about my pronouns on that cup there. So first observation, I see an Adam's apple, so I'm assuming it's a guy. But not trying to be rude, this person looks like a robot. Does not look real. Next thing, some of the caption below there is talking about how he signaled to the kids at his school. Does that one creep you out a little bit? That's nothing. Check this one out. I got this clip from Libs of TikTok.
I am an openly queer teacher. Now, I don't stand in front of my elementary students and be like, I like women, but I wear a bi flag watch band, bi flag bracelets. In my classroom, I keep a rainbow flag. I'm making off on it because I love Mickey. Is that a rainbow? My kids know what it means.
So the colors, the flags, are symbolizing to kids that she is the quote-unquote safe space for them.
This is me telling them I am a safe place to talk without making a big deal out of being queer.
Lie.
I know I should have said my head. Love it.
I don't love it.
Anyway, so because I am openly queer, my students trust me, especially my queer students. I teach.
Your students trust you. See, she's trying to build trust with the students to have those private conversations.
Anyway, I'm now teaching summer school and I have third graders. Like I said, I wear these bracelets to let them know I'm a safe space.
Again, trying to be the safe space for the kids, aside from parents.
Two students, third grade students, came to me and asked me to use they, them pronouns. And also asked me if I could tell their teachers this. I said, kiddos, I would love to do that for you. I'm so glad that you trusted
Of course you
me
would.
with this information.
You're so glad that they trusted you with that information.
One student in particular also asked to use a different name when it is not gender as what they were born in. So I gave this information to the other teachers and then got scolded because that was not appropriate for me to communicate. At least not in the form of communication that I used. I used the main form of communication that we
I
had
have to wonder,
groups of teachers.
just what these other teachers and school staff are thinking of her when she's communicating this.
And I'm here today, after I have already communicated this with them multiple times. These teachers are still misgendering these students and still using...
No, they're using the right pronouns, and they're not lying to the kids, like you.
I don't care what you believe, but when you repeat
You obviously do care.
your child's request for pronoun and name changes, you are hurting them.
Liar. Did you enjoy that cringe video as much as I did? Because I absolutely did not enjoy it. That was agonizing to listen to and watch, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, the reason I showed you that photo and that video is because I want you to see a couple examples of the type of people that your children may very well be learning from or hanging out with when they go to schools. And it's not just public schools. If you pull your kid out and put them in private or charter schools, if you're putting your tax dollars into those schools as well, your tax dollars are usually still tied to government stipulations that they push in these other schools too. I'm telling you all this because we need to rally together against this stuff. We have got to combine forces. Parents, grandparents, even if you're not a parent and you know this stuff to be wrong in the schools, you don't have to be a parent. If you are a taxpayer, your stuff, your money is being spent on this woke garbage that is targeting our children. The nuclear family structure is under attack. Judeo-Christian values, Western American values, they are under attack by these woke ideologies. The CRT praxis, the LGBTQetc stuff, this SEL, social emotional learning. More about that later. This stuff is being promoted to tear down the power structures in the United States, because these power structures that we have traditionally in our country, they are what built the greatness and the strength in the United States. We've got people who are avowed Marxists, Leninists, communists, socialists, who want to tear our system down, our society down, our economy, and rebuild their own version, their so-called utopia. Because, especially when it comes to communists and Marxists, they truly believe that they're going to build their own utopia here on Earth. This is why you hear words like equity being pushed, equal outcomes. Equity, equity, equity. There will never be any true equity here on this earth except where we all are in the grave experiencing the same death, all dead. That's equity on the earth. Well, no more seriousness for me. Let me close it out. If you like this video, please leave a like on it, leave a rumble if you're watching on Rumble. Leave a comment below. If you got any questions, if you got any comments that you want to just say, remarks about some of the content of today's video, please share this video. And anytime you share my video, please share it with the hashtag #RallyCryForKids. Because, as always, I am trying to rally the forces. I'm trying to rally people against this darkness attacking our kids. Remember, folks, be bold as lions.